Welcome back to Tipping Point. I'm your host, Kara McKinney. The gut-wrenching self-immolation of that U.S. airman in front of the Israeli embassy in Washington, D.C. proves an important point, that the extremism stand-down ordered by the Secretary of Defense was only against conservatives and not against, actual enemies of the United States. Because Aaron Bushnell's social media is chock full of support for anti-cop Antifa groups and for openly socialist and Marxist-tinged queer revolutionary groups. And yet, it doesn't seem like he got caught up in Lloyd Austin's dragnet. Bushnell even mocked the recent deaths of the 3 American service members killed in their sleeping quarters in Jordan by a drone sent by Iranian-backed militia forces. By referencing this meme of Top Gear's Jeremy Clarkson, who feigned concern about the delay of a car he didn't like. Watch.
Bad news.
What?
The Dacia Sandero. It's delayed.
Oh no. Anyway, last week...
Imagine making that nasty joke in reference to dead American troops, reservists, and thinking you're the good guy. And we're supposed to believe his act of self-immolation was because he just cared so much about the plight of others thousands of miles away in Gaza. But he couldn't even show an ounce of sympathy for his fellow Americans, for those he served alongside, at least figuratively. They weren't too far away in Georgia. Well, he was stationed in Washington, D.C. after all. That's a lot closer than where Gaza is. I have a hard time trusting someone who claims to be willing to die for a person they'll never meet or encounter across the globe while gleefully stepping over the bodies of those right in front of them. It exposes to me that their supposed altruism is a dangerous play act. I mean, honestly, would he dare make that joke to the mother of Army Sergeant Breonna Moffett?
He looked at me and he said, "I'm sorry, Miss Moffett, but Breonna was killed this morning in a drone attack." And I'm like, my baby, you can't take my baby. And she's gone. She's not coming back. When I see her again, it's in her casket. She's not walking through my front door.
It's tough to watch, and we pray for the repose of Breonna's soul and for the family she leaves behind. Now, going back to the Lloyd Austin point from a few moments ago, this Red State piece puts it well. It says, quote, "Days after the occasionally AWOL Secretary of Defense assumed control of the armed forces of the regime, he ordered a stand down to combat extremism in the ranks. No one had really seen examples of extremism, but with all those white guys, they knew it was there. In fact, former Red Stater Stu Svirk noted that the documents guiding the stand down pointedly ignored leftist terror groups and seemed to focus on grievances Austin, had accumulated since he was a West Point cadet. Indeed, it fast became obvious that no one in the military cared about the communists or anarchists, just waiting for the order to gun down fellow citizens. They didn't even bother to hide. In the end, the results were so counter to the narrative that the DOD had seeded in the media that the report was suppressed until made public by a FOIA demand." End quote. Is it any surprise that in this political climate that recruitment is way down for the armed forces? The situation is so dire for the Army, at least, that they're slashing 24,000 jobs from their ranks. Joining us now to discuss is military defense attorney Davis Yance. Davis, thanks for being here tonight.
Good evening.
So how severe are these job cuts to our military readiness?
It is a significant issue, and the best way to understand it is we are talking about 5% of the current end strength of the United States Army. 5%. So while the Department of Defense will do a spin job on this and try to say, oh, these are positions that weren't filled or these are positions that are no longer as current or relevant, it is a significant evidence of failure, a failure of current military leadership, particularly in the Army, to fill the positions and to recruit service members to fill those positions. So this is a leadership failure, no question.
It really is. Time and time again, I've seen it by loved ones who've served, that a lot of the young patriotic guys that you want to be, serving in our military, that a lot of them, even if they do join, not as many are joining these days, but those that do, a lot of them go into infantry and other type positions. They work very hard, and there's just a lot of issues with leadership and command.